Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.
All right, shalom, family. Most High in Christ bless you. And for those online listening, Most High in Christ bless you all. Today's class is entitled A Look into King Solomon's Life and Legacy. I've been through classes on Solomon before, and I hope that this will kind of help you get a better understanding of his life and how we can use his example for our life, okay? So watch this. For those in here, who knows about King Solomon? Brothers here? Anybody can tell me a little about Solomon? Right there in the back, go ahead. Tell me a little bit about Solomon.
Shalom, leadership. Shalom, leadership.
Shalom.
Solomon was a son. David was Solomon's father. He was the king of Israel, and we know of his legacy that he left. He was the smartest man ever to live, the richest man ever to live, and he was actually the last, to me, good king that we had in Israel.
You say he was the last good king.
Well, to me, I put him to me. Everybody else got their own opinion.
Well, it ain't to what it is not really to use to what the scriptures say.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's what you say. But okay, anybody else? Nobody else? Right there.
Shalom. King Solomon, like he said, was a great king, and then
So they can hear. You got to talk louder.
And he built the King Solomon's the tabernacle,
The temple.
and that's
Okay, good. All right in the back, right there.
Shalom, leadership. King Solomon, like they said, was the wisest man, and through all the stuff that he knew, he committed multiple sins. He had a lot of wives, but through all the stuff that he went through, he found out the main thing was to fear God and keep His commandments.
Very good, very good. Okay, good. Okay, so Solomon, as you were saying, Solomon was the son of David. He received wisdom, all wisdom that God gave him to understand how this earth was formed. All nations came to Solomon for understanding, but Solomon did sin, did leave a stain on his name, and he came back to understand with all that wisdom at the end that it was to fear God. But I'm going to start in the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, and I'm going to read one verse, and then I'm going to go back, and we're going to begin from his birth. So I want to read Ecclesiastes chapter 2, and I want verse 17.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 2, verse 17. Therefore I hated life.
Whoa. He said what?
Therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me. For all is vanity and vexation of spirit.
So Solomon came around and said, therefore I hated life. We're going to figure out, why would he say that for? He had all riches. He didn't have to go to war. His father subdued all nations, but he came and understood, he said, therefore I hate my life. Do you know you have a lot of people out here who in this world get financially, that make it financially, and they go take their life? Like Robin Williams. All the money in the world you want, and you off yourself. What's that guy, the guy who travels and eat food? Anthony, I forgot his name. You know what I'm talking about. Bourdain, that's his name. All the money, you travel the world. You get paid to travel the world, and you still off yourself? Solomon, with all that he had, all the riches, everything to his disposal, he said, therefore I hated life, because the works that is wrought under the sun is grievous. The work he's talking about ain't physical work, because Solomon didn't have to work. We're going to find out what he means. It's grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit. First, let's look up the word vanity, the definition of vanity. Read that first one.
Yes, sir. Vanity, excessive pride in or admiration in one's own appearance or achievements.
He started looking at his life and he realized the pride he took in his own achievements. Look at the next verse, verse 18.
Ecclesiastes 2, verse 18. Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me.
He says, I hated all my labor which I have taken under the sun. So all the things that he put his hand to build, he hated. Remember, he built himself palaces for himself. He multiplied wives. He multiplied children. He multiplied horses. He made temples to other gods. And he realized that all this is all vanity, because all those things do not make you right with God. So he came to a point in his life with all his wisdom and realized, man, life sucks. What was he going through mentally in his life for him to get to that point? But let's go back. We're going to begin with David's life. All right? Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 2. And we're going to come back to Ecclesiastes later on in the class. But we're going to read a little bit about his life and kind of get a gist of how he got here. So now for you all who've never really read the book, the life of Solomon, or the book of the Kings and Samuels, it would behoove you to start reading this history, because we're going to touch some points, but if you want to get a full grasp of his life, you got to go back to David's life, to be honest with you. All right? Let's begin in 2 Samuel chapter 12, and I want verse 24.
2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 24. And David comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her. And she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon. And the Lord loved him.
Now, for those that understand the history on Bathsheba and David, David committed adultery with Bathsheba. And he killed Bathsheba's husband. And I think in a class or two ago, I taught concerning her a little bit with her grandfather, Ahithophel. But here's the point. When you read up in the same chapter, let's read up a little bit. Chapter 12, start with verse... I'll start with verse 10.
Verse 10. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this sun. For thou didst it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel.
I'm sorry, finish.
And before the sun.
So look what he says. The Lord said, the sword shall not depart from thine house, David. What does he mean? You're going to live a life of war. In your lifetime, David, you're going to live a life of war. It's not going to depart from your house. He said, why? He says, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house. That was his son Absalom. And I will take thy wives before thine eyes and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of the sun. We read that with Absalom when he slept with his father's wife in the midst on the roof in front of everybody. Verse 12, read that for me.
Verse 12. For thou didst it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel.
He said, you did it secretly, but I'm going to do it openly before all Israel. You slept with Bathsheba in secret. Read on.
And before the sun.
Read on.
And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord also hath put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die.
He said, but David said, I've sinned before the Lord. He told Nathan that. But Nathan let him know that God put away your sins. You're not going to die. What did David do? He repented. He repented. The Lord sought to have mercy on him. Read on.
Verse 14. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die.
He says, wait a second. Howbeit, because this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. Because of your actions, David, you give a way for your enemies now to blaspheme. When we stay in the laws of the God, we're being defended. But David, you left for breach. Read on.
And Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them.
So he mourned and he fasted. Read on.
And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they say, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead?
They didn't want to tell David. Read on.
But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshiped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, what thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was yet alive. But when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me that the child may live?
He said, how do I know if the Lord's not going to allow this child to live? So while he was alive, I fasted for his life. Read on.
But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me.
He said, one day I'm going to die, but that child will not come back to me. Hold this real quick. We're going to come right. Oh, no, read the next verse.
And David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon.
So the reason I read that for is because we knew that Solomon was the wisest man on earth, right? You think Solomon didn't understand as he grew up that he had an older brother, brother that died because of fornication? You think that doesn't play on his psyche of how he perceived his father, his mother, his family, his name? Watch this real quick. I want you to go from that to Ecclesiasticus chapter 23. Verse 17.
Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, chapter 23, verse 17. All bread is sweet to a whoremonger. He will not leave off till he die.
Read on.
A man that breaketh wedlock, saying thus in his heart, who seeth me? I am compassed about with darkness. The walls cover me, and nobody seeth me. What need I to fear? The Most High will not remember my sins.
That was David. He didn't think nobody seen him. Well, man didn't see him. Read on.
Such a man only feareth the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Behold, all the ways of men, and beholding all the ways of men, and considering the most secret parts.
So you think you're going to escape because man may not see you, but God said he sees. His eyes are 10 10,000 times brighter than the sun, beholding all men's ways. Read on.
He knew all things ere ever they were created. So also after they were perfected, he looked upon them all. This man shall be punished in the streets of the city, and where he suspecteth not, he shall be taken.
Right, and he was punished in the streets of the city, meaning what? They all watched the shame that happened to him with his son sleeping with his wives. And it says, and where he suspecteth not, he shall be taken. Here's one way David had to go through it. His son died. All his servants knew this child was born out of sin. Read on.
Thus shall it go also with the wife that leaveth her husband, and bringeth in an heir by another.
Thus shall it go. The same shame. That's why Ahithophel was the way he was. He's like, damn, no, that's God's judgment on you for playing the whore. The child had to die. Read on.
Verse 23. For first, she hath disobeyed the law of the Most High. And secondly, she hath trespassed against her own husband. And thirdly, she hath played the whore in adultery.
And that's what, is there more?
Sir, and brought children by another man.
And that was the shame that she had to take on. That's the shame David had to take on. But more so what I'm getting out of it is Solomon. Solomon had to come to a point where he understood that this was what happened. This was his mother. You don't think he loved his mother? He respected his father? Yet he understood what they did. All right? So when we read about the life and legacy of Solomon, you start to understand how he thought and how his mind worked. Watch this real quick. I want to go from that to Book of Wisdom of Solomon. Chapter 7, verse 1.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 1. I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man, and the pleasure that came with sleep.
Right. He's telling you how Solomon's explained to you how he came into the earth. Read on.
Verse 3. And when I was born, I drew in the common air and fell upon the earth, which is like of nature. And the first voice which I uttered was crying, as all others do.
He said, I came like any other man, like all others do. I hit the common ear, and the first voice I uttered was crying, as all other creatures, all other men do, I should say. Read on.
I was nursed in swaddling clothes, and that with cares. For there is no king that had any other beginning of birth. For all men have one entrance into life, and the like going out.
He said, all men have one way in and one way out. But now, look what he says. This is Solomon giving wisdom. I want you to go one chapter back. I want you to read chapter 6, verse 1.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6, verse 1. Hear therefore, O ye kings, and understand. Learn, ye that be judges of the ends of the earth.
So look what his wisdom is. He says, hear therefore, O ye kings, and understand. Learn ye that be judges of the end of the earth. Read on.
Give ear, ye that rule the people, and glory in the multitude of the nations.
And he says, give ear, ye that rule the people. Now give ear to what? I want you to read verse 23.
Verse 23. Neither will I go with consuming envy.
Neither will I go with consuming envy. Read on.
For such a man shall have no fellowship with wisdom.
Look what he says. He said, neither will I go with consuming envy. Do you know that was his father with Bathsheba? He envied. He wanted what was another man. He understood. Neither will I go with consuming envy. Now, they could fall into other scenarios, but I'm trying to keep along this vein right now. Neither go with consuming envy, for such a man shall have no fellowship with wisdom. If you have that spirit where you envy, desire something for evil, covetousness, something wrong, you cannot go with wisdom. It's going to separate you from wisdom. Then he comes back in chapter 7, verse 1 again.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 1. I myself also am a mortal man.
He said, I'm also a mortal man.
Like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood, of the seed of man and the pleasure that came with sleep. And when I was born, I drew in common air and fell upon the earth, which is of like nature. And the first voice which I uttered was crying, as all others do. I was nursed in swaddling clothes, and that with cares. For there is no king that had any other beginning of birth. For all men have one entrance into life, and the like going out.
Okay, watch this. I want to go to First Chronicles. Watch this. First Chronicles, chapter 3. Let me see it first. Chapter 3, verse 1. I want you to read 1. Now we're going to read about Solomon's family. 3, verse 1 through, I think, like 9.
Yes, sir. First Chronicles chapter 3, verse 1. Now these were the sons of David, which were born unto him in Hebron. The firstborn Ammon of Hanoam, the Jezreelite. The second Daniel of Abigail, the Carmelitess. The third Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth Adonijah, the son of Haggith. The fifth Shephatiah of Apital. The sixth Ithream by Eglah his wife. These 6 were born unto him in Hebron. And there he reigned 7 years and 6 months.
That's before he made his throne in Jerusalem. So he had these 6 kids while he was in Hebron. Read on.
And in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. And these were born unto him in Jerusalem: Shemaiah and Shobab and Nathan and Solomon.
So Solomon was the 10th born child to him. The 10th one. Read on.
4 of Bathshua, the daughter of Amiel. Ibhar also, and Elishama, and Eliphelet, and Noga, and Nepheg, and Japhiah, and Elishama, and Eliada, and Eliphelet. 9. These were all the sons of David, beside the sons of the concubines, and Tamar their sister.
So Solomon was one of 13, I forgot how many kids, I didn't count the number, but he was number 10 of them. Think of his life now. He's born, he has 9 older brothers. His father had him by different women. What lesson was Solomon being taught? What kind of lesson was he getting? Dad had all these women. Dad took my mom while she was married to another one. You know, it's whatever. Even though David repented, but the lesson is still taught. It doesn't change the lesson. So now, I'll tell you something. You talking about dysfunction? Watch this. So we got that. Let's go to 2 Samuel now. We're going to read about some of his brothers. 2 Samuel 13.
2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1. And it came to pass after this, that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister,
So that was one of David's brothers, Absalom, I think like the second born. Read on.
whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her.
And David had another son by the name of Ammon for another woman. And the brother Ammon loved his sister. Read on.
And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother.
So look at this. Ammon was lusting after his sister. And it was so bad that he felt sick. That's a demon on him. He felt sick for her. But he couldn't get himself to do anything evil. But then who came? Our friend, read that verse again.
Verse 3. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother.
So this was David's brother's son. That was his cousin. His cousin came and said what?
And Jonadab was a very subtle man.
Now, wait a second. Jonadab was a very subtle man. Why was why, this is his cousin. He was being subtle. What does he say? Read on.
And he said unto him, Why art thou being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me?
He said, why this man was so lean, he was losing weight. That's how bad he wanted his brother's sister, or he wanted his sister. Read on.
And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said unto him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it, and eat it at her hand. So Amnon lay down, and made himself sick. And when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. Then David said sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to thy brother Amnon's house, and dress him meat. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down. And she took flour and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Have out all men from me. And they went out, every man from him. And Amnon said unto Tamar, Bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought him into the chamber to Amnon her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her and said unto her, Come lie with me, my sister. And she said to him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. And whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit, he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her.
So he raped his sister. He raped his sister. This is the stuff that Solomon is growing up seeing. This is stuff that he heard about, at least, in his family. You know, my sister was this father, my brother, my mother, and father, their marriage was, or whatever you call a marriage, started in fornication. These are the bad lessons that he was learning and seeing. Go from that to Ephesians 6. And I'm saying to say, us as parents, your life is a lesson to your children. Not what you teach them, what they see you do, what they see their siblings do, it affects them on some level. Doesn't that provoke not thy son to, is it? Yeah, read that for me.
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath.
It says, and you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. How do you provoke them to wrath? By not applying the commandments, first teaching them, and then applying them in your own life. You provoke them to judgment. Like for David now, you know, okay, you see, you get the word. What? My son raped my daughter? What? David, your life wasn't right either. Provoke not their children to wrath, but what?
But bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
But bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Bring them up in the Lord, in the laws of the Most High God. So one example he has was that his brother raped his sister. All right? Let's go back to Kings. All right, so I'm going to speak 1 Kings 1. So I don't want to take too long in getting to later on in his life. 1 Kings 1, and I want verse 1.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 1, verse 1.
Oh, and you got to remember, too, his brother Absalom, I'm just going to go through it. Absalom wanted the kingdom from his brother. From his father, Absalom ended up trying to sleep with his father's wives. All this Solomon had to experience and see this in life, that his brother was trying to kill his father. So one brother raped his sister, the other brother killed the brother for raping his sister Absalom. Then your brother ended up sleeping with your father's wives on top of the roof, another fornication, and then he tried to kill him. Well, there's fornication going on, but there's fornication in David's life. All right, so read on. Now let's go. 1 and 1.
1 Kings chapter 1, verse 1. Now King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he gat no heat. Wherefore his servants said unto him, Let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin, and let her stand before the king, and let her cherish him, and let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coast of Israel, and found Abishag a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not.
King didn't have sex with her. So this was a young woman that became, for lack of a better word, a caretaker to David. But David never slept with her. But she was one of his wives. That became one of his wives. But he was an old man. Her job was to take care of him, keep him warm at night, whatever. But, he wasn't doing nothing with her. But still, she had that title. Read on.
Verse 5. Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared him chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not displeased him at any time in his saying, Why hast thou done so? And he also was a goodly man, and his mother bare him after Absalom.
Right. So now Adonijah, one of David's sons, saw his father was old, and he wanted to become the king. And he was a brother of Absalom. Remember, Absalom is one who slept with his father's wife. Read on.
Verse 7. And he conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar, the priest.
Now, and he conferred. Now, listen to what he said. He conferred with Joab, the son of
Zeruiah.
Zariah, and with Abiathar, the priest. And they followed Adonijah. I lost my place.
I got you, Bishop. And they, following Adonijah, helped him.
Right. So Zariah is who? Who is that? Real quick. 1 Chronicles chapter 2. We can come right back here so you guys get an understanding. All this plays into Solomon, his life. 2:16. 1 Chronicles. Yes.
1 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 16. Whose sisters were Zeruiah and Abigail, and the sons of Zeruiah, Abishai, and Joab, and Asahel.
So
3.
this is, I'm sorry, let's start with verse so they know who we're talking about. Let's start with verse, let's say David. Start with verse 13.
Verse 13. And Jesse begat his firstborn, Eliab, and Anadab, the second, and Shema, the third, and Nathaniel, the fourth, and Rabdi, the fifth, Ozem, the sixth, David, the seventh.
Read on.
Whose sisters were Zeruiah and Abigail.
All I want was Zariah was his sister. Read on.
And the sons of Zeruiah, Abishai, and Joab, and Asahel. 3.
And his sons was, one of them was Joab, who happens to be the captain of David's army at one point. He was the captain of the host. So let's go back to 1 Kings 1. I want you verse 7 again.
1 Kings chapter 1, verse 7. And there conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar, the priest, and they, following Adonijah, helped him. But Zadok the priest and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shammai, and Ray, and the mighty men which belonged to David were not with Adonijah.
So Adonijah was trying to claim the throne. He saw a place to say, I'm going to seize this moment. My father's old. I'm going to claim the throne. Now, again, what does this have to do with with Solomon? You're going to see the treachery that he had to deal with in his life. He's watched and understood his father's behavior, his brother's behavior, and now he's seeing that, this is for real. These people around me, sometimes the people closest to you, are dangerous. So let's jump on down. I don't want to read the whole chapter. Jump on down to verse 24.
1 Kings 1, verse 24. And Nathan said, My Lord, O king, hast thou said, Adonijah shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne? For he is gone down this day, and hath slain oxen, and fat cattle, and sheep in abundance, and hath called all the king's sons, and the captains of the host, and Abiathar the priest. And behold, they eat and drink before him, and say, God save King Adonijah. But me, even me thy servant, and Zadok the priest, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the servant Solomon, hath he not called? Is this thing done by my lord the king, and thou hast not showed it unto thy servant?
So they want to know, did you call for this, for him to be crowned king? Read on.
Who should sit on the throne of my lord the king after him? Then King David answered and said, Call me Bathsheba. And she came into the king's presence and stood before the king. And the king sware and said, As the Lord hath redeemed my soul out of all distress, even as I swear unto thee by the Lord God of Israel, saying.
What verse are you at?
Verse 30, sir.
I want you to read verse 30 again.
Verse 30. Even as I swear unto thee by the Lord God of Israel, saying, Assuredly, Solomon thy son.
No, I want you to read verse 29.
Verse 29. And the king sware and said, As the Lord liveth, that hath redeemed my soul out of all distress.
His distress was his life. He said, God redeemed him. Read on.
Even as I swear unto thee by the Lord God of Israel, saying, Assuredly, Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne in my stead.
So he said, know for certainty, Solomon was going to sit on the throne. That's why you read earlier, when we read in 2 Samuel 12, it says, and the Lord loved him. The Lord already had Solomon. Even though he came out of that situation, the Lord already had him sectioned off or sanctioned to be the king after his father. So David now, years later, is confirming this. Yes, the Lord moved him to make, remember, he was a 10th child. Absalom felt he had a place before him. Adonijah felt he had a place before him. You came out of a whore mother. So they was trying to jockey for position. David said no. God moved him and said, make Solomon the heir to the throne. Read on.
Verse 31. Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the earth and did reverence to the king and said, Let my lord David, King David, live forever. And King David said, Call me Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada. And they came before the king. The king also said unto them, Take with you servants of your lord, and cause Solomon my son to ride upon mine own mule, and bring him down to Gihon.
So now watch this. What was the purpose of having Solomon ride on his own mule? Anybody know? Just real quick. Just say it out. Okay, so something that was the king's property, like his mule, if you're seen on it, that means the king is confirming you. Everybody understand that? Okay, if the king put the crown on your head, the king is confirming you, right? Okay, just remember that if it's king's property and you take possession of it, it's as though, okay, so you're the man then. Okay, right? So we're going to jump on down. I don't want to read all that. Jump on down to verse 40. Lost my place. 43.
1 Kings chapter 1, verse 43.
So now Solomon was on his father's mule and he's being known. Verse 43.
And Jonathan answered and said unto Adonijah, Verily our Lord King David hath made Solomon king, and the king hath sent with him Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Jerethites, and the Pelethites, and they have caused him to ride upon the king's mule. And Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet have anointed him king in Gihon, and they are come up from thence rejoicing, so that the city rang again. This is the noise that ye have heard.
So while they was having their feast, they heard what was going on in Jerusalem, and they said the word came that Solomon is crowned the king. He's on the king's mule. Now, Adonijah heard that, and let's see what happened.
Verse 46. And also Solomon sitteth on the throne of the kingdom. And moreover, the king's servants came to bless the Lord King David, saying, God make the name of Solomon better than thy name, and make his throne greater than thy throne. And the king bowed himself upon the bed. And also thus said...
Hold on. Moreover, the king's servants came to bless our Lord King David, saying, God make the name of Solomon better than thy name. Wow. And make his throne greater than thy throne. And the king bowed himself upon his bed. So the king was submitting, saying, yes, this is the man. And he was agreeing, make his kingdom bigger than mine. This is setting the stage for something in a second, you'll see. Read on.
Verse 48. And also thus saith the king, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, which hath given one to sit on my throne this day, mine eyes even seeing it. And all the guests that were with Adonijah were afraid, and rose up and went every man his way.
They knew they made the wrong choice. Read on.
And Adonijah feared because of Solomon, and arose and went and caught hold on the horns of the altar. And it was told Solomon, saying, Behold, Adonijah feareth King Solomon, for lo, he hath caught hold on the horns of the altar, saying, Let King Solomon swear unto me today that he will not slay his servant with the sword. And Solomon said, If he will show himself a worthy man, there shall not an hair of him fall to the earth. But if wickedness shall be found in him, he shall die. So King Solomon sent, and they brought him down from the altar. And he came and bowed himself to King Solomon. And Solomon said unto him, Go to thine house.
So Solomon was showing mercy. He said, if there's not wickedness found in you, you don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to kill you, even though you tried to usurp the throne from me. Watch this, chapter 2.
Chapter 2, verse 1.
I want you to speed up the reading, all right?
Yes, sir. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man. And keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself.
So David is about to die. He's telling Solomon, listen, show yourself a man. Keep these commandments. Why is he saying that for? From his own life experiences, the mistakes that he made. So Solomon, I'm telling you, keep these commandments. It's going to work well for thee. Read on.
Verse 4, that the Lord may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, If thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth, with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on a throne of Israel.
Read on.
Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, and what he did to the two captains of the host of Israel, unto Abner the son of Ner, and unto Amasa the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed blood of war in peace, and put the blood of the war upon his head, and upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet.
So now he's given Solomon charge. He said, listen, thou knowest also what Joab the son of Zeruiah, that's his nephew. He said, what he did to me, and that he did to the two captains of hosts of Israel, Abner and of Ner, and Amasa the son of Jether. He killed these two men. He said, what he did to me. Let me tell you something. Joab was disrespectful towards David. He killed, as a matter of fact, let's just show it. Go to 2 Samuel 7. I'm assuming that's it. Where's it at? That's it. Read it.
2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 22. And behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing a troop and brought in great spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he was gone in peace.
No, I want where he killed Absalom. Where did we just read from before that? 2 Kings 2. 2 Samuel 3. If you're going to say it loud. One second. Real quick. Let me Google it. Wait. Thank you. 2 Samuel 3 and 30. Thank you.
2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 30. So Joab and Abishai, his brothers, slew Abner.
No. I want he killed Absalom. Thank you. 2 Samuel 18. That's it, the thicket. That's it. 18 verse. Go ahead, read.
2 Samuel chapter 18, verse 14. Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. And 10 young men that bare Joab's armor.
What verse is
that was 18, verse 14, sir.
Okay, that's 1 second. Yeah, one second. This is what I'm looking for. I want what he told him, deal with him kindly. Verse 5, that's it. 18 and 5, that's what I want. Read.
2 Samuel chapter 18, verse 5. And the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all captains charge concerning Absalom.
Jump on down to verse 17.
Verse 17. And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit in the wood and laid a very great heap of stones upon him. And all Israel fled, every one to his tent.
Right, so they killed him. When you read it up in the chapter, his hair got caught in the thicket, and Joab came and put him to death. So let's go back to Kings. Verse 5.
1 Kings chapter 2, verse 5. Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, and what he did.
So what he did to him was he disobeyed him. But guess what? It's going to be hard. That's your uncle, but you know what your uncle did. Your uncle killed Uriah. You lose respect for him. You taught him an evil lesson against yourself. Even though David got right, the bad lesson was still taught. So think about now, David couldn't do nothing. He couldn't kill him. Why? Because he himself was in error, but he said, son, I need you to clear this up. I want you to see the man that Solomon is beginning to form in now. Now he's okay. I'm taking over the kingdom. I need you to clean up all my mess. Read.
Let's see. Moreover, thou knowest what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, and what he did to the 2 captains of the host of Israel, unto Abner the son of Ner, and unto Amasa the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed blood of war in peace, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet.
Right. He killed Abner and he killed Amasa, 2 captains of the host, one because he was jealous of him, because David chose him to be the captain, so he said, I'm going to get rid of him. David said, all that stuff you did, Solomon, I need you to clean up this work, right? All right, let's jump on down. Read. Yeah, read on.
Verse 6. Do according to thy wisdom, and let not his whorehead go down to the grave in peace.
Do according to thy wisdom, and don't let his whorehead go down in peace. Kill him. Don't let him grow old. I want him put to death. I'm dying, and this is what I need. All right, read on.
But show kindness unto the sons of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and let them be of those that eat at thy table. For so they came to me when I fled because of Absalom thy brother.
Jump on down to verse 10.
Verse 10. So David slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. And the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. 7 years reigned he in Hebron, and 33 years he in Jerusalem.
Read.
Verse 12. Then sat Solomon upon the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was established greatly. And Adonijah the son of Haggith came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, and she said, comest thou peacefully? And he said, peaceably.
So she asked him, okay, what are you here for? You coming in peace? What you doing? Read on.
And he said, moreover, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And she said, say on. And he said, thou knowest that the kingdom was mine.
Whoa. Wow, this guy's crazy. Read on.
And he said, thou knowest that the kingdom was mine, and that all Israel set their faces on me, that I should reign. Howbeit the kingdom is turned about and is become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord.
So he said, it was mine, but the Lord wanted him to have it. It was never yours. It was never yours. So he already speaking unadvisedly. But read on.
And now I ask one petition of thee, deny me not. And she said unto him, say on. And he said, speak, I pray thee, unto Solomon the king, for he will not say thee nay, that he give me Abishag the Shunammite to wife. And Bathsheba said, well, I speak for thee unto the king. Bathsheba therefore went unto King Solomon, to speak unto him for
So now you remember, this girl, Abishai, was the same one that was taking to David when he was old. All right, read on.
Bathsheba therefore went unto the king Solomon, to speak unto him for Adonijah. And the king arose to meet her, and bowed himself unto her, and sat down on his throne, and caused a seat to be set for the king's mother, and she sat on his right hand. Then she said, I desire one small petition of thee. I pray thee, say me not nay. And the king said unto her, ask on, my mother, for I will not say thee nay. And she said, let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah thy brother to wife. And King Solomon answered and said unto his mother, and why dost thou ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? As for him the kingdom also, for he is mine elder brother, even for him and for Abathar the priest, and for Joab the son of Zeruiah. Then King Solomon sware by the Lord, saying, God do so to me, and more also, if Adonijah have not spoken this word against his own life.
So I want you all to try to help me understand what's happening here. Well, I'm just going to say it. I got no time. It's going to take too long. Adonijah went to Solomon's mother and said, listen, you know the kingdom was mine. Already you're speaking at the side of your head. But God wanted your son to have it. But I'm asking for one thing. Could I get Abishai, the young girl, for wife? And then she said, okay. And she went to her son and said, listen, I'm asking you for one petition. Just grant me what this, son. And then she said, give your brother Abishai, let me say her name right, Abishag to Adonijah. That's why I'm telling you, that's why you don't listen to women sometimes. Even that was his mama. He's like, what? Mom, go crochet a head covering. What are you talking about? Why would it be a big deal for him? Why wouldn't he give her that woman? I kind of gave you the answer earlier.
Shalom, Bishop, Soldiers of Kirk. You said, why wouldn't he give him that?
Yeah,
woman?
why Solomon would not grant him that
because it was almost as if, you know how David gave him the mule.
Very good.
It's the same thing. If you give him his woman, it's almost even worse.
Right. You're confirming that this man is rightfully the heir. If you sit on the king's mule, you're telling everybody, I'm the king. Nobody just sits on his mule. Nobody takes his crown off his head. Nobody takes his ring. So you telling me my older brother, mom, give him the king's wife? Or you trying to confirm him as king? Hell no. I told you, Abishai. I told you, Adonijah, if you don't do no evil. But you knew it was evil because the first thing he said was what? You know the kingdom was mine. His mother wasn't able to discern that. So now here comes Solomon. Solomon's going to become a killer now. Now it's time to get rid of all this. Now he's coming to his manhood. Now it's time to get rid of, start making small work of all this stuff. Tie these ends. You know what? Let's go. Now I'm going to start killing you people now. So very good. I'm glad you caught that. Yes, very good. What verse you stopped at with that? Read again.
1 Kings chapter 2, verse 24. Now therefore, as the Lord liveth, which hath established me, and set me on the throne of David my father, who hath made me an house, as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death this day.
Read on.
And King Solomon sent by hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and said, and he fell upon him that he died.
Right. He sent him out to kill him. But I'm not reading it simple as that. This is his brother. He's like, damn, I got to kill my brother. He got to go. That affects you. That affects you. All these things play into the way you think. But it's business now. Read on.
Verse 26. And unto Abiathar the priest said the king, get thee to Anathoth, unto thine own fields, for thou art worthy of death.
Now remember, this was the priest that joined with Adonijah to upseat Solomon as being the king. He said, you know what? Now for you, you better go to Anathoth. Read on.
But I will not at this time put thee to death, because thou bearest the ark of the Lord God before David my father, and because thou hast been afflicted in all wherein my father was afflicted.
So he says, I'm not going to kill you because you bear the ark of the covenant in my father's time. So I'm going to show you that much respect. And you was afflicted like my father was afflicted. Remember, if you remember the history, Saul began to put all the priests to death. And this man followed David. And he went through all that. He was the only one left of that line, which is the line of Eli. And God says he's going to destroy. Oh, doesn't it say next verse?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, read.
Verse 27. So Solomon thrust out Abiathar from being priest unto the Lord, that he might fulfill the word of the Lord, which he spake concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh.
Remember, Eli, he told him, your line is going to be cut off. And that was the last man standing. He said, okay, I'm not going to kill you, but you need to die. But because of what you did, okay, you're just going to be put away. Now he's clearing up all this dirty work. His father gave him instruction what to do. Now he's putting things in perspective. Read on.
Verse 28. Then tidings came to Joab, for Joab had turned after Adonijah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab fled unto the tabernacles of the Lord, and caught hold on the thorns of the altar. And it was told King Solomon that Joab was...
I'm sorry, I meant to say, back with Abiathar. He told him, because you was afflicted with my father. 1 Samuel 22. I meant to read that. 1 Samuel 22. Watch this. This is the reason why he said that. 1 Samuel 22, verse 20.
1 Samuel chapter 22, verse 20. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain the Lord's priest. And David said unto Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of thy father's house. Abide thou with me, fear not, for he that seeketh my life seeketh thy life. But with me thou shalt be in safeguard.
He told Abiathar, were you with me, you in safeguard. That's the reason why Solomon said what he said to him. You was with my father, so you're going to get a pass, but you better stay where I told you to stay at. Jump on back.
Verse 26.
28.
Oh, I'm sorry, 28. Verse 28. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 28. Then tidings came to Joab, For Joab had turned after Adonijah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab fled unto the tabernacles of the Lord, and caught hold on the horns of the altar.
So he sees what's happening right now. He see that Adonijah was put to death. He see that Abiathar had to flee to that city. So Joab like, I was part of that too. So he hurried up and grabbed the horns of the altar. Read on.
Verse 29. And it was told King Solomon that Joab was fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord. And behold, he was by the altar. Then Solomon sent
Benaniah,
the son of Jehoiada, saying, Go, fall upon him. And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of the Lord, and said unto him, Thus saith the king, come forth. And he said, Nay, but I will die here. And Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, Thus said Joab, and thus he answered me. And the king said unto him, Do as he hath said, and fall upon him, and bury him, that thou mayest take away the innocent blood which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. And the Lord shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with the sword. My father David, not knowing thereof it, to wit, Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. Their blood shall therefore return upon the head of Joab, and upon the head of his seed forever. But upon David, and upon his seed, and upon his house, and upon his throne, shall there be peace forever from the Lord.
So why didn't David kill him in his time after he did that? Because David himself was in error. So David said, I can't do it. I already have my own error myself. Joab was looking like, you had me kill Uriah. David said, I can't do it. But Solomon, you're going to take care of this work for me right now. Read on.
Verse 34. So Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, went up and fell upon him, and slew him. And he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. And the king put Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, in his room over the host. And Zadok, the priest did, the king put in the room of Abiathar.
Right, so did it say they killed him yet? What verse you just read?
35, sir.
34. And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, went up and fell upon him, Joab, and slew him. All right, so he cleaned up his time. He cleaned up all that work now. Now he's dead. So now we're going to get to chapter 3. And I want you to read chapter 3, and I want you to read...
Club was that at?
That was admit that a lot of people don't even realize they.
I've called her. She hasn't responded. I've called her more than a few times.
But the Zulu nation, I'm like, what the hell is this? I know nobody know what I'm talking about. You'll leave me on the island by myself. I don't know what the hell Bishop's talking about. That's what y'all do. Then after class, yeah, I knew what you were talking about. I just don't want to be caught out there. The hell is this? Get on my damn nerves. So read that again, 31.
verse 7.
First Kings,
Verse 6.
chapter 3, verse 6. And Solomon said, Thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he had walked before thee in truth, and in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept him from his great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child.
He said, I'm just still a young man. I'm not, I don't even think Solomon was even at the age of 20 at this point. He already had deaths. He already seen what his brothers did, the treachery with his brothers and his family, his sister raped, murder. He commit murder. He's seen all these things. Read on.
I know not how to go out or come in.
I don't have no direction. I'm still a young guy. Read on.
And thy servant is in the midst of thy people which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge thy so great a people?
He said, I'm asking the Lord to give me understanding to how to judge these people. Read on.
And this speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing.
But this speech pleased God, as Solomon asked, listen, how do I guide these people? What do I do? Tell me, Lord. I'm just a young man. You know what we're missing? Is the beginning of the chapter. Read verse 1.
1 Kings chapter 3, verse 1. And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David, until he made an end of building his own house, and the house of the Lord, and the wall of Jerusalem round about.
So now look what he says. Solomon made an affinity and married a heathen woman. He sinned against God, marrying a heathen. Read on.
Verse 2. Only the people sacrificed in high places because they're...
What?
Only the people sacrifice in high places.
It says, only the people sacrifice in high places. Read on.
Because there was no house built unto the name of the Lord until those days.
Because there was no place of the Lord built. Because there was no house built unto the name of the Lord until those days. So it wasn't until Solomon's days they were going to build a temple for God. But the people were what? Sacrificing where?
And the people sacrificed in high places, because there was no house built unto the name of the Lord until those days.
Read on.
And Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt incense in high places.
But it says only he sacrificed and burnt incense in high places. So he loved God, but he was sacrificing in high places. 2 Kings 23. 2 Kings 23. Give me a second. I got to go there. We're going to come right back here. 23 verse 13.
2 Kings chapter 23, verse 13. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mount of corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had builded for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon. Did the king defile?
So the high places, go back to 1 Kings, when it says, and Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David, his father. Only, that means but, he sacrificed and burnt incense in high places. So as he was loving God, he was serving another God. I tell you, people don't really understand Solomon's life and what he's been through and what he did. But Solomon had a bad upbringing too. You know, his stuff was messed up. He was trying to figure this whole thing out. Read on.
Verse 4. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was a great high place, 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon offer upon that altar.
Listen, Solomon what? Read that verse again.
Verse 4. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon offer upon that altar.
He gave up 1,000 offerings. But here's the problem. Hold this, Deuteronomy 7. This is why he did this for. Deuteronomy 7, verse 1.
Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hast cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
Why?
For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly.
Right, so the Lord said the reason why, because they're going to turn you away from serving me. So he made go back to 1 Kings. So he made an affinity, allegiance, 1 Kings 3, with the king Pharaoh, and married his daughter. And then he began to set up sacrifices to them. So here we go. He loves God, but he's sacrificing to another God. But look what happens when you get down to verse 6. Verse 5.
1 Kings chapter 3, verse 5. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night.
So while he was sacrificing to other gods, what?
The Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, ask what I shall give thee.
God came to his conscience and said, Solomon, ask, what do you want, and I'll give it to you. What do you need? You're serving another God, but what do you need? Why not me? Read on.
And Solomon said, thou hast showed unto thy servant David, my father, great mercy, according as he had walked before thee in truth, and in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him his great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day.
So Solomon wanted to do right. So I'm asking you a question. What happened? Before we move on, what happened with Solomon? You know David's life was a life of war. You think David was home to raise him up? Deuteronomy was again, when they walk us down, when they rise us up, Deuteronomy 6, is that it? Go to it real quick.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
You think David was doing that? David lived a life of war. He had so many children. He wasn't around. You think he went to war and came back at the end of the day? His whole life was a life of war. He wasn't there to groom him up and bring him up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So he didn't have no real good foundation. And the examples he did have, his brothers was murderers, ratchets, rapists. His father was an adulterer. His mother played the whore. Not the real good base to start off an adulthood life at. So you understand why he made some of the mistakes that he made in his life. You can kind of get it. So now here he goes. He clears out all his father's enemies. Now he's there. He don't have to fight no nations. He got in control. What did he do? He married a woman of another nation. His father always told him, show yourself a man, keep the commandments. Did he listen? No. So where are we back? Back to Kings. Verse 7.
1 Kings chapter 3, verse 7. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father. And I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad.
Come on, Dave. Come on, Solomon. Read on.
For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing.
So he said, the Lord was pleased. Okay, you asked. You serve other gods, but you asked me. Read on.
And God said unto him, because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there is none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days.
Now here's a point.
And if thou wilt walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days.
He says, then I'm going to lengthen your life. You're going to read, we're going to get to in a second. Solomon didn't get past 60. He didn't get past, he reigned 40 years. His son, he was a young man, so what was he old? Maybe 55, I'm guessing. This is me making a number, but he wasn't past 60 years old. He said, if you do what I tell you to do what I tell you to do. I'm okay, you're asking, you're near worshiping other gods, but here you go. I have put my conscience on you. What do you need from me? Lord, teach me how to serve you, what I want to do. Tell me what to do. Isn't that what Paul said? The things that I should not do, that I do. Yet it's not me. Solomon struggled with this. So let's go to chapter 4. 4:29.
1 Kings chapter 4, verse 29. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding and God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much, and largeness of heart, even as the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country, and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser than all men, than Ethan, the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Chalcol, and Darda, the son of Mahal, and his fame was in all nations round about. And he spake 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And he spake of trees, from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon, even unto the hyssop that springeth out of the wall. He spake also of beasts, and of fowl, and of creeping things, and of fishes.
So it says Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country, and all the wisdom of Egypt. So Egyptology doesn't come close to what God showed him. Then he came back and said, he spake of trees and of cedars that is in Lebanon, and even of hyssop, and spring forth out of the wall. And he spake of the beasts and the fowl and the creeping things and the fishes. Solomon had understanding of herbs, how it worked. Wisdom of Solomon 7 real quick. Wisdom of Solomon 7. Yeah, I believe so.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17. For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are.
So God gave him knowledge of things that are.
Namely, to know how the world was made.
Now, verse 20.
Verse 20. The natures of living creatures, and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of winds, and the reasonings of men, thy diversities of plants, and the virtues of roots.
He gave him all these things. Read on.
And all such things as are either secret or manifest, them I know.
He said, if it's secret or manifest, them I know. Read on.
For wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me. For in her is an understanding spirit, holy, one only, manifold, subtle, lively, clear, undefiled, plain, not subject to hurt, loving the thing that is good, quick, which cannot be letted, ready to do good.
So this is all that he got, the virtues of roots, everything he understood. Go back to the book of, go to Ecclesiastes. Watch this. Ecclesiastes 1, verse 16.
Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 16. I commune with my own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to great estate. I have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge.
Read on.
And I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly.
He said, wait a second. With all the wisdom, I gave my heart to know wisdom, but also madness and folly. Read on.
I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit.
He said this was a vexation of spirit because I knew better. Read on.
For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow.
You think the knowledge he's talking about is these scriptures? Increase his knowledge of these other gods, increase sorrow because he realized all the mistakes he made. Watch this. Read on.
Ecclesiastes 2 verse 1. I said in my heart, go to now, I reprove thee with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure. And behold, this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine.
With all his wisdom, he gave himself to now, give himself over to wine, to drunkenness. Read on.
Yet acquainting mine heart with wisdom.
At the same time, I'd still try to dabble with wisdom. Read on.
And to lay hold on folly.
He laid hold on foolishness. Read on. Sin. That's what folly is. Read
till
on.
I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life.
So he searched out foolishness with all the wisdom God gave him. That's why the Most High said, my spirit cannot always strive with man. Because all minds ain't right. And it's by the mercies he's having us and his son died for us that we even have an opportunity. Because he that knoweth to do right and doeth not, to him it is sin. Let's go back to Kings. We was in Kings 3, right? 4, okay, I'm sorry. Let me see. Okay, so what was the last thing we read in 4? Oh, yeah, he gave him all that stuff. Now let's jump to chapter. Now remember, God came to him and gave it to him, right? Now let's go to chapter 9. Chapter 9, verse 2. Oh, 1 second, let me see. No, verse 1.
1 Kings chapter 9, verse 1. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished the building of the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all Solomon's desires which he was pleased to do, that the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, as he had appeared unto him at Gibeon.
Now remember, the first time he was in Gibeon, he was doing something wrong. He appeared to him a second time and said to him what?
And the Lord said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually.
Read on.
And if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever.
So wait a second. This is the second time he's coming to him. He said, listen, you built my house. I let you build your house. He says, I'm telling you that if you will walk after my ways and do what I'm telling you to do, this is the second time I'm telling you this. So what happened when Solomon went to build the Lord's house and his house? Go back to Ecclesiastes. This is what happened when he went to build those houses. Ecclesiastes chapter verse 2 and 4.
Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 4. I made me great works. I builded me a house. I builded me houses and planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards, and I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water, to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of grape and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasures of the kings and of the provinces. I gat me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men as musical instruments, and that of all sorts.
So what do you think Solomon was doing? He was turning up. He said, I lay hold of wisdom and I want no folly. So I built me houses. I had me men singers and women singers, and I had horses, and I built. Solomon was turned up. You think he was waking up after a night of drinking or whatever and he was instructing Rehoboam? No. Solomon had 1,000 women. Same vicious cycle. Same cycle. So Solomon came to the point he understood. He started to say, I hate life. I realized all that stuff is vanity. It leads to nothing. Read on.
Verse 9. So I was great and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remaineth with me.
Meanwhile, he still had a conscience. His wisdom was with him. Read on.
And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them.
He said, even with his wisdom, the Most High was winking at it. Give him a time to get it right. Solomon, figure it out. Like with many of us, Most High give you a time to figure it out. He says, with all that, what?
And whatsoever my eyes desired, I kept not from them.
He did not keep whatever his eyes desired. So he wanted a Egyptian wife, he took her. He wanted a Moabite wife, he took her. He wanted an Edomite wife, he took her. He took whatever he wanted to take. And all those led him away from God. He said, I didn't withhold them things from myself. Read on.
I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. And this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do. And behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit.
All of it was a waste of time. It was self-gratification. It was exalting himself like he was something special. He did all the stuff. It was, look at the word vanity again, definition of vanity. Vanity.
Vanity, excessive pride in or admiration of one's own appearance or achievements.
That's him. He said, all my achievements was BS. All the things I had was a waste of time. But the Lord, he still said, the Lord still was dealing with me with wisdom. Let's go back to Kings. So he says the Lord appeared to him a second time, right?
Yes, sir.
Go to 1 Kings 11.
1 Kings.
Chapter 11, verse 1.
Chapter 11, verse 1.
This after the Lord came to him a second time.
But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites.
So he still didn't learn after the Lord told him when he went to sacrifice other gods, if you serve me, the Lord came back a second time and told him, and he said, do what I'm telling you to do. Just listen to me. He listened to him. Now, Solomon still loved those women. And what did that get Solomon? Hold this. Go to the book of Nehemiah. Is that it? 13. Let me hear what 13 says. Okay, let me hear it.
23.
Yeah, let me hear what it says.
Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 23. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod.
No, let's get to the point.
Yes, sir. Verse
26, I'm sorry.
26. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause him to sin.
Nevertheless, regardless of all these things, it says what?
Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause him to sin.
He sinned against God with all this. Watch this. Go from that to Sirach 47. Book of Sirach, chapter 47. Watch this real quick. Start with verse 13.
Sirach, chapter 47, verse 13. Solomon reigned in a peaceable time and was honored, for God made all quiet round about him, that he might build an house in his name and prepare his sanctuary forever. How wise wast thou in thy youth, and as a flood filled with understanding.
He said, how wise you was a flood filled with understanding. You understood everything. Read on.
Thy soul covered the whole earth, and thou fillest it with dark parables.
It says, and thy soul covered the whole earth. All the nations round about wanted to, Sheba, the queen of Sheba, they all wanted to come to him for wisdom. Read on.
Thy name went far unto the islands, and for thy peace thou wast beloved. The countries marveled at thee for thy songs and proverbs and parables and interpretations. By the name of the Lord God, which is called the Lord God of Israel, thou didst gather gold as tin.
He gathered gold as tin. Read on.
And didst multiply silver as lead.
Read on.
Thou didst bow thy loins unto women, and by thy body thou wast brought unto subjection.
And this is what you got. Read.
Thou didst stain thine honor and pollute thy seed, so that thou broughtest wrath upon the children, and was grieved for thy folly.
You stained your name, Solomon, behind us. Read on.
So the kingdom was divided, and out of Ephraim ruled a rebellious kingdom.
Stop. We're going to come back here. Let's go back to Kings, 1 Kings 11. Watch this. 1 Kings 11, verse 1.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love.
And he bowed his loins to them. He clave on them in love, which ended up staining his name. Read on.
And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that the wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father.
Read on.
For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as David his father. As did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Melech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods.
So listen to Solomon. What happened with him? The one who God entrusted all wisdom to understand everything, Solomon turned around and built temples to other gods. After he built a temple to the Most High God, he put his money to build temples to all these different gods. So while Solomon was building his house and he had his singers and all the stuff, what do you think he was doing? He wasn't there grooming up Rehoboam. Rehoboam wasn't coming under the admonition of the Lord. Hold this. We're going to come right back here. Go back to what we was reading earlier in Sirach 47. Watch this. He was drinking. He gave himself to no wine. Verse 47, verse 23.
Sirach chapter 47, verse 23. Thus rested Solomon with his fathers, and of his seed he left behind him Rehoboam, even the foolishness of the people, and one that had no understanding, who turned away the people through his counsel.
He turned away the people through his counsel. He said he left a son Rehoboam with no understanding. Why? Solomon was searching out all evil. He had no time to raise him. Generational problems. His father was always at war. His father had multiple wives doing what he did. No time to raise him up. God said, I'm going to show you mercy. Even though you're serving other gods, I'm going to show you, give you all wisdom. He got the wisdom. He came back and realized, all this stuff was vanity, what I did. I wasted and pissed away the years of my life. But he came up in dysfunction. Everybody be reading about David's life and Solomon's life like it was some, like, I'm going to marry David. I'm going to be David and the king. Who wants that life? I can't imagine. My son raped my daughter. My son slept with my wives on the roof. My dad, my mom is a thought. He killed her husband. My older brother died. Damn. Make you look at life totally down. I don't know what you're reading, what Bible you're reading from, boy. But Okay, so let's go back to Kings 11, 1 Kings, verse 9. Yes, verse 9.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 9. And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice.
So God warned him 2 times. Remember, it says after the first and second admonition, do what? Reject. So what happened?
Verse 10. And he commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord had commanded.
Damn.
Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and I will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake.
Now watch this. Verse 11. Wherefore the Lord saith unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and will give it to thy servant. Thy servant ain't talking about his son. It's about the other nations. Prophecy that the other nations are going to rule over you. Who was one of the servants of us? The Edomites. David brought them into captivity underfoot. One of these Edomites, they're going to rule over you. He said, next verse. Verse 12, read it.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 12. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son.
I'm going to rend it out of the hand of your son. I'm not going to do it for David's sake. I ain't going to do it in your life, but I'm going to do it. Read on.
Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen.
Watch what he says next. Read.
And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon.
Read on.
Hadad, the Edomite.
And that was the beginning of it. These Edomites, that they had fixated. God said, I'm going to make you serve them. Your kingdom is going to become theirs. Only thing we lucked out is that we're going to get it back anyway. But still, guess what? So it goes. So, he provoked his son. He provoked his son. Watch this. Let's go to, now we're going to stay in Ecclesiastes for a minute. We're going to jump around Ecclesiastes. I want you to read Ecclesiastes 1 and 1.
Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity.
All is foolishness. Read on.
What?
All is don't mean nothing. Read on.
What profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever.
But this earth is going to abide forever. Read on.
The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers came, thither they return again. All things are full of labor, and man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing.
Stop. All things are, so let me go back. It says, the words of the preacher, Solomon, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, Solomon speaking. Vanities of vanities, saith the preacher, vanities of vanities, all is vanity. Solomon is coming full circle now in life. He says, what profit hath a man of all his labors which ye have taken under the sun? Why? One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. So all those things that he built, all those things that he had, he understood one day you're going to die. This is going to pass away. Then he says, the sun also rises and goeth down and hasten to the place where it rose. He's talking about the circuit of how life is and how things are. The wind goes toward the south and turneth about toward the north and whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to its circuit. Same thing. All rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from whence the rivers come, thither they shall return. From the rivers into the seas, back to the rivers. Here's the point, verse 8. All things are full of labor. It says, man cannot utter it, the eyes not satisfied with seeing, nor the ears filled with hearing. Watch this. All things are full of labor, man cannot utter it. Man can't fully understand. Now, how does Solomon get to this point when he's saying that? Life is full of labor. Man can't utter it. Man can't fully understand. Solomon had a lot of free time to get caught up. He had money to live out all his hurtful lust. His eyes is never satisfied because you're always looking. It can never get enough. He said, all this doesn't mean nothing if you don't fear God. You're doing all these things. That's like in this captivity for us, we just buying time to get out of here. People trying to amass wealth like they're going to be here forever. It doesn't mean you don't work hard. And it doesn't mean for you all that are aspiring to have a good career, while you're in this captivity, go to college if that's going to be your course. Get a good job so you can take care of your family. But then the overages belong to the Lord. Don't be of the mind, because we used to hear that back in the days, don't go to school, don't get no education because Christ is returning. What kind of foolishness is that? That's people who got low aspirations, who can't do anything. If you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a person that's going to help benefit the nation in those regards, do it. And we also know people who can build, do that also. But don't be of the mind that you shouldn't do it. No, get that, but don't trust in no uncertain riches. Solomon had it all. Killed off who he had to kill off early on. Now he's in charge. He's a young man. He got all wisdom. Pride got on him. God is warning him. He's taking wives of the nation. To the point now, after he built God's house, in my mind, I'm like, he actually said, go into the treasury. We're going to build a temple for Ashtaroth. With God's wisdom, that's what came out of his mouth. You do stain your honor. Okay, watch this. Verse 13.
Verse 13. And I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith.
Read on.
I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit.
He said, I've seen it all because I've done it all. Ain't nobody was richer than me. Ain't nobody was smarter than me. I've had it. I've done it. You can't tell me anything. All of it is foolishness. This is all advice he's giving. Now jump to chapter 2. Start again from the top.
Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1. I said in mine heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in mine heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I may see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life.
He wanted to see how the other nations lived. He wanted to experience the white woman, the Chinese woman, the East Indian woman, the African woman. He said, I have money, I can do it. Sometimes the Most High withhold things in you, in your life, to save you from you. Because men give into all their hurtful lusts. Dudes be broke and be faithful. Dudes get cash and they're at the strip club. You got your wife home and now you got cash. You leave her home and you go put in some sweaty breast. That's what it says, the love of money. What does it say? And get that real quick. Hurtful lust, that's what I want, part of it. Love of money, where's it again? Timothy, yeah. This is the last part I want of it. Read it.
1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil.
Read on.
Which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows.
They pierced themselves through with many sorrows. They disturb themselves because now they got money. Loving that money, you're chasing the money. Do you understand how wealthy Solomon was? He says gold was like tin to him. Watch this real quick. Go to 1 Kings again. We're gonna come right back here to this. Let me give you a grasp of Solomon's wealth. 1 Kings chapter 4. Watch this. 1 Kings 4. Verse 21.
1 Kings chapter 4, verse 21. And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms from the river unto the land of the Philistines, and unto the border of Egypt. They brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life.
Watch this.
And Solomon's provisions for one day.
For what?
For one day was 30 measures of fine flour and 80 measures of meal.
Do you know how much 30? Do we ever look that up? Do we have that pulled up?
Yes, sir.
I want you to see what 30 measures of fine flour is. Give me the measurement of that. This is for one day in this house. Well, you got 700 wives and 300 concubines. Let's see. 30 measures. Read that.
All right. Let's see. It says the narrative. The parable describes what happens when a woman adds leaven, old fermented dough, usually containing actobacillus and yeast, to a large quantity of flour, about 8.5 gallons or 30 liters.
Okay, that's not the one I wanted, but it is right. It's about 8 dry gallons. So he had how many? 30 measure. I lost my place.
Verse 22.
Yeah, and Solomon's provision for one day was 30 measure of fine flour. How much that work out to? Did you get the number of that real quick? 30 measures of fine flour. So it works out to how many pounds was that again?
It was 255 gallons.
Okay. Dry gallons, which worked out to over 300 pounds. And that's just fine flour. The next part says what? And 22.
Oh, verse 22. And 80 measures of meal.
And it was twice the amount of meal or cornmeal, whatever meal they had. Do you understand the magnitude? This dude had almost 1,000 pounds of flour and meal every single day for his household. He was turned up all the time. Read on.
Verse 23. 10 fat oxen and 20 oxen out of the pastures.
So that's 30 oxen. One oxen, and I'm talking about this is hanging meat. This is after it's slaughtered. I'm going to put a rough number on it. 300-400 pounds. This is fat oxen, so say 600 pounds. 600 pounds at 30 pounds, that's 18,000 pounds, if my math is correct. Of meat, that's just beef, a day. Solomon had everything in excess. And he realized all this is vanity. This stuff don't matter. Because you're going to die one day. You better be right with God. Read on.
And 100 sheep, besides harts and roebucks, and fallow deer, and fatted owl.
That's why he was able to give 1,000 cattle for offering to another god. He just had it. It was just in excess. Imagine where he kept his animals. Forget where he lived at, because don't think the animals was in his backyard, meaning right there. He wasn't all that mess. You know the poop from a 1,000 cattle is? Damn. He had a stable with, I forgot where it's at, a stable with over 400 horses. His own private, not his army, his private horses. Let's go back. Where was it before that? In Ecclesiastes, right? Let's jump on down. Verse 7.
Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 7. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also, I had great possessions of great and small cattle, above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. I got me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men, as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy. For my heart rejoiced in all my labor. And this was my portion of all my labor.
He said, my heart rejoiced in all my labor. Read on.
Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do. And behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit.
So now at one point he looked upon his labor that he did with his hand, and he rejoiced in it. He loved it. And then he came to fruition and started saying, he looked at it, he turned to see, and he says, what? All this was a waste of time. It was self-praise. It was just abundance and waste. Read on.
And there was no profit under the sun.
And there's what?
And there was no profit under the sun.
So all that was to no profit. It was a waste. Read on.
Verse 12. And I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath been done already.
Now he's saying this. Now what can you do after what I did? How much more you think you're going to do? This is him now. This is a proverb. He's trying to give you some instruction. Listen, I'm telling you something. None of you can do as much as I did, Solomon said. And I'm telling you something, it's a waste. Ain't nobody can ball out more than Solomon. I've had it all, and I'm telling you, it's a waste. That's why it says, don't trust in uncertain riches. Now watch this. That's not the point I want to get to. Let's jump to chapter 4.
Ecclesiastes.
Chapter 4. It's so much here. I don't want to read all of it. Chapter 4, verse 5.
Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verse 5. The fool foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. Better is in a handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirit.
It's better is a handful with quietness. It's better to have just enough to get by than to have excess. He says, why? Than both hands full with travail and vexation. Because with more, he does more, he did more, he got caught up in more. Read on.
Then I returned, and I saw under the sun, there is one alone, and there is not a second. Yea, he hath neither child nor brother, yet is there no end of all his labor. Neither is his eye satisfied with riches. Neither saith he, for whom do I labor, and bereave my soul of good? This is also vanity. Yea, it is a sore travail.
Read on.
Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth. For he hath not another to help him up.
So he came back and says, two is better than one. You think Solomon had people around him? Yes. But why does he say two is better than one? Because Solomon felt alone. Why? Because there ain't nobody on the earth that was as wise as him. There's nobody he could talk to, he felt he can talk to and listen to. He's like, dude, whatever you tell me, I already know. He couldn't be corrected. You ever out here think they so smart in these scriptures and whatever? Like they above, like they can't be told anything. Read on.
Verse 11.
No, just jump on down to verse, no, read on, yeah.
Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken.
If you got a good unit that's around you, it's not going to be easily broken. But those cords got to be intertwined together. Look what he says now.
Verse 13. Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. For out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor.
So look what it says. Better is a poor and wise child than an old foolish king who will no more be admonished. He's better is a poor and wise child. Maybe it's best that a child doesn't grow up to have all the luxuries of life than being rich with all the wisdom and can't be told anything. He realized he screwed up his life. He realized, I messed up. But who is he talking to? He says, better is a poor and wise child. We'll get to that in a second. This is why he said this. Chapter 5, verse 1.
Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 1. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God.
Instruction, keep quiet, because Solomon thought he knew it all. God chose him. Read on.
And be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools. For they consider not that they do evil.
They don't consider that they do evil. That's why he says, keep your foot. Solomon had understood his mistakes. I should have just kept quiet when I was told, Solomon, you marry these other strange women. Who are you to tell me anything? I'm the king. God chose me. Look at all I have. Look at this. He came back in life and realized all this is vanity. Because as he's going to his end, he knows he has a son, Rehoboam, and Rehoboam don't got no understanding. Why? Solomon was turned up. His life was what it was. And he's like, damn. So now I'm on a mad dash. Before I read that, read 7 and 12.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it.
So he understood you need money. He understood that it's a defense. But more importantly, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that had it. He came to understand that wisdom is what was necessary. Watch this. Verse 5.
Verse 5. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools.
It's better to hear the rebuke of the wise than what? Than hear the songs of fools. Those are all the people that was singing for him, all that BS. Solomon now got in a dash and he began to write proverbs. And he began to write songs about, listen, but he understood all that stuff was foolishness. All those men singers, that drinking, I gave myself to that stuff. I got to get away. I had to get away from that stuff. Watch this. Verse 25.
Ecclesiastes 7, verse 25. I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things and to know the wickedness of folly, even the foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death.
This is what he found. Read on.
The woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her.
He's giving counsel. He's telling you, I searched it all out. Who could do more than me? And I find more bitter than death is that woman whose heart is snares and nets. She will lead you away from God. That's talking about the heathen woman or whoever woman it is that will lead you away from God. But you'll deal with her. Why? Verse 11.
Verse 11. Wisdom is good with
No, I'm sorry. Chapter 8, verse 11.
Yes, sir. Ecclesiastes, chapter 8, verse 11. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil.
They think they wise. Read on.
Though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear God, which fear before him. But it shall not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before God.
He understood that one. Though he prolong his day, but he going to very answer to him. But as long as you're alive, you can do this. 9 and 4.
Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 4. For him that is joined to all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion.
He says, as long as you're alive, there's hope to try to get yourself together. That don't mean the damage is not caused, but you can try to rewrite something. That's why he says, verse 6.
Verse 6. Also their love and their hatred and their envy is now perished. Neither have they.
I'm sorry, verse 9.
Verse 9. Live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of the life of thy vanity, which he hath given under the sun, all the days of thy vanity. For that is thy portion in this life, and in thy labor which thou hast takest under the sun.
He said, all the labors you taken under the sun, he's telling you, I'm telling you what you better do. You better live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of thy life. That wife is talking about an Israelite woman. It says, which he hath given thee under the sun. So there was a woman that God gave him. That wasn't enough. He wanted 999 more of them for all nations. He said, man, listen, live joyful with the wife of thy youth. So what is he trying to tell you? He screwed up the wife he had, he was coming up with. He screwed up chasing all these other women, and now he's coming to this part of his life and realized, damn, that messed stuff up, man. 40 years passed, I'm old, I realized all that stuff, all them houses I built and that stuff wasn't worth all them horses and that stuff and them partying, all that drinking, that wine and that stuff. It was for nothing. Looked back and said, damn, I messed up. My father messed up, but he got right with God, but I got these women, man. When do you break the systematic dysfunction? That's why his father said, Solomon, show thyself a man, keep the commandments. It's going to go well with thee, Solomon. Listen to what I'm telling you. Do this, do that. Solomon got wisdom, but he did. He didn't do it. Verse 10.
Verse 10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest.
There's no knowledge in the grave. 12 and 1.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth.
Who you think he talking to? Read on.
While the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou say, I have no pleasure in them.
He says, you better remember the creators in the days of your youth. And I'm telling all you, remember him while you're young in his truth, before the days draw nigh. Because he came to understand what? Verse 7.
Verse 7. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it.
Because one day you're going to die. Read on.
Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. All is vanity.
All is, none of the stuff is worth it. Read on.
And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed and sought out and set in order many proverbs.
It says, read again, and moreover.
And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge.
He still taught them knowledge. Read on.
Yea, he gave good heed and sought out and set in order many proverbs.
He said, I gave good heed and I sought out and I gave many proverbs. We're going to get those proverbs in a second. Read on.
The preacher sought to find out acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth.
And he said, he saw upright words, words of truth. Read on.
The words of the wise are as golds.
The words of the wise are as golds. When you're building, they connect. Read on.
And as nails fastened by masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd.
Right. It's given from one shepherd, the massive assemblies. Jump on down to verse 13.
Verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter.
Look how Solomon come back and he said, listen, so all that I'm telling you, this is the conclusion of it. Read on.
Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
He took his whole life to come to that understanding. With all the wisdom he was given, it took him his whole life to come to understanding that, man, the whole conclusion of this whole matter is to fear God and keep the commandments. And I'm telling you, you can't do more than me. I've done it all. I've made the mistakes, and I'm leaving this record for you. Read on.
For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
And every secret thing, it don't matter what you're going to do, is going to be brought into judgment. You cannot escape. That's why he said this. Go to Proverbs 1. We're going to wrap it up in a second. We're going to start tying this together right now. Let me get there with you. Proverbs 1, verse 1.
Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning.
He says, a wise man will hear and increase in learning. We're going to find out who he's talking to. A wise man will hear and will increase in learning. That's why he says, a poor and wise child is better than a king that would not be admonished. He says, a wise man will increase in learning.
And a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel.
And a man of understanding shall attain to wise counsel. Read on.
To understand a proverb and the interpretation.
Understand a wise saying and the interpretation of it. Read on.
The words of the wise and their dark sayings.
You understand all wisdom. Read on.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
And just listen, he's explaining to you the fear of God is the beginning of you understanding it. That's why you have some people, when you talk to them, they say, like I give you an example, last night I was listening to Deacon, and he pulled Amos 3 and 3. Tell me what it says again, I forgot, but that's you can't two walk lest there be agreed. And the person he was talking to was like, read on, like it was going to trump what he was saying. And I'm like, well, the next verse says the same thing. No, 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 no. And then when you get to verse 7, it says, surely the Lord will reveal nothing but unto his servants the prophet. The God don't stand. God didn't reveal it to you because you are not keeping the commandments. It just says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. They don't want it. Read on.
Verse 8. My son.
Who?
My son.
He was instructing Rehoboam, my son. Read on.
Hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother.
He's trying to tell son, listen, I need you to listen to me, son. My son, I hope you can perceive what I'm saying to you. Read on.
For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck.
Read on.
My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not.
My son, if sinners entice thee, don't listen to them. Jump to chapter 2, verse 1.
Proverbs chapter 2, verse 1. My son,
Rehoboam, listen up.
if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thine heart to understanding, yea, if thou criest after knowledge and liftest up thy voice of understanding. If thou seekest her as silver and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find knowledge of God. For the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. He layeth up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly. He keepeth the paths of judgment and preserveth the way of his saints.
He's telling them how to survive. He keepeth the way of the saints. Chapter 3, verse 1. Oh, no. Read on.
Verse 9. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and judgment and equity, yea, every good path.
Read on.
When wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee.
He said, when wisdom enters into you, discretion is going to preserve thee. You're going to learn discretion. Read on.
Understanding shall keep thee,
Read on.
to deliver thee from the way of evil, of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things.
Read on.
Who leave the path of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness.
Read on.
Who rejoice to do evil and delight in frowardness of the wicked.
It's going to deliver you from this type of man. Read on.
Whose ways are crooked, and they froward in their paths.
Read on.
To deliver thee from the strange woman, even the stranger which flattereth with her words.
It's going to lead you away from the strange woman that's going to flatter you. Wisdom, he's saying, my son, I'm telling you, listen to me. I'm telling you from my own mistakes, I got caught up with that. Oh, wisdom, Sheba was like, whatever you, and remember he said, I'll give you whatever you want. She said, I forgot, it was Sheba, Queen of Sheba. She was flattered. She tried to flatter him with her lips. He got flattered with how many concubines he had. Read on.
Verse 17. Which forsaketh the guide of her youth, and forgetteth the covenant of her God.
Watch this. Chapter 3, verse 1.
Chapter 3, verse 1. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man.
Read on.
Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding.
Read on.
In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil.
Now you understand why he says, lean not unto your own understanding. Be not wise in thine own eyes, because he was an old foolish king that could not be admonished. Read on.
Verse 8, it shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. Honor the Lord with thy substance and with the first fruits of all thine increase.
That's why he says this, verse 31.
31. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
Don't choose the ways of the other nations. That's what he did. Don't choose those ways. Chapter 4, verse 1.
Proverbs 4, verse 1. Hear, ye children, the instruction of a father, and attain to no understanding. For I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law.
Read on.
For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother.
Read on.
He taught me also and said unto me, let thine heart retain my words. Keep my commandments and live.
He told me, show thyself a man, Solomon. If you want to go well with thee, keep the commandments. Read on.
Get wisdom, get understanding. Forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth.
Do not decline from what I'm warning you, Solomon. Do what I said. Now, Solomon is giving this instruction to his son. Now, we know prophetically God is giving to us as a people. But Solomon's writing this. Listen to what I'm telling you. Don't decline from the words. Do exactly as I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you because of the mistake I made. I was told by the mistakes my father made. It's time for you to listen, Rehoboam, to do different. Did he listen? No. Why? Because of Solomon's mistake, he already wrote his son. You wasn't there. You wasn't bringing up in the admonition of the Lord. So don't be shocked at the behavior that he has. To the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. You wasn't doing what you're supposed to do. But now he's on the mad dash to say vanity's a vanity, all is vanity. I'm telling you, this stuff ain't worth it, man. The whole conclusion of life, just because judgment is not executed speedily, man's heart is set to do evil, but I'm telling you, the whole conclusion of this matter, you better fear God and keep these commandments. I'm warning you. Read on.
Verse 6. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she will keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding.
So you get all this wisdom in, but the principal thing is wisdom. But with all that wisdom, learn the application. Because you can learn all wisdom, but when you have to place it or put it into action in your life, do you have the knowledge of how to use it? Do you have the wisdom and understanding of how to put it? He said, here's one way. You understand it's wrong? Don't do that. Don't get wisdom and say, I got wisdom, but now I want to search out evil. Don't do it. Read on. What verse you at?
Verse 8, sir.
That's it. I don't want to read it. I'm about to wrap it up. Chapter 5.
Proverbs 5, verse 1. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood.
So you don't think that's happened to Solomon? In his old age, his wives' words were smooth, and then he began to build temples to the other gods. It says, and that what? Wormwood, was that?
But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life. Her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them.
She is not stable. But here's the point. Solomon told you, he said, I find more bitter than death the woman. But that's why he says, what? Live joyfully with the wife of thy youth. Find one good one, hold her down. Verse 15.
Verse 15. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running with waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth.
Isn't that what he said in Sirach? I mean, Ecclesiastes? Come up with the wife. Listen, plant seed in her. Deal with her. Read on.
Let her be as the loving hind, and a pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love.
He said, I'm telling you, son, this is what you got to do. You want to survive. Read on.
And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger?
Well, I mean, Solomon had experience to tell you shouldn't do that. Chapter 6, verse 1.
Proverbs 6, verse 1. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend.
I don't want to read that one because this takes me to, it's going along the same lines, but it takes me to something else. Chapter 7, verse 1.
Proverbs 7, verse 1. My son, keep my words, and lay up my commandment with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. Bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the table of thine heart. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that thou may keep thee from strange women, from the stranger which flattereth with her words. For at the window of my house I looked through my casement, and beheld among the simple ones, I discerned among the youths a young man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house, in the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night. And behold, there met him a woman with the attire of an harlot and subtle heart. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. Now is she without, now in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner.
Verse 21.
Verse 21. With her much fair speech she caused him to yield. With flattering of her lips she forced him.
And she forced him with flattery of lips. Into what? Sinning. He warned him. Chapter 8. I want you to read. No. Let's let that go. I want to go back to Sirach. Yep. And I want the last verse he was reading, verse 23.
Ecclesiasticus, Sirach, chapter 47, verse 23. Thus rested Solomon with his fathers, and of his seed he left behind him Rehoboam, even the foolishness of the people, and one that had no understanding, who turned away the people through his counsel. There was also Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who caused Israel to sin, and showed Ephraim the way of sin.
So Jeroboam led the people away, northern kingdom, but Rehoboam, he hath no understanding and turned the people away through his counsel. What did he do? He didn't have wisdom and know how to deal. He could have kept the place. Let's read that real quick. 1 Kings 12. Verse. I can't find it because I'm a Second Kings. First Kings. Bear with me. Verse 10. Oh, no. Start with verse 6.
1 Kings chapter 12, verse 6. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men.
I'm sorry. Let's read verse 11. Verse 42. 11:42.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 42. And the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. Chapter 12, verse 1. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt, that they sent and called him. And Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yokes grievous. Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve thee.
So they said, they came to Rehoboam. Jeroboam fled. They fled because at that time Solomon used northern kingdom and put them to service to help build up the temple and his cities and his homes. And they were going away. It's like, yo, listen, Solomon's taking advantage. But that was one of the curses because we wanted a king. So he said, your children are going to be confectionaries. They're going to build. They're going to be my army. So that was one of the issues. So now he fled because Jeroboam was rebelling against him. He fled down. He heard Solomon died, so he came back in and said, let me meet with Rehoboam. Hey, Rehoboam, listen, if you do right by us, we'll come and serve you. No problem, but we just want a little ease up. Read on.
Verse 5. And he said to them, Depart yet for 3 days, and then come again to me. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived, and said, How do ye advise that I may answer this people? And they spake unto him, saying, If thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be thy servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the old men, which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him, and which stood before him. And he said unto them, what counsel give ye, that we may answer this people, who have spoken to me, saying, make the yoke which thy father did put upon us lighter. And the young men that were grown up with him spake unto him, saying, thus shalt thou speak unto this people that spake unto thee, saying, thy father made our yoke heavy, but make it thou lighter unto us. Thus shalt thou say unto them, my little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins.
So they came back and said, we're going to serve you, Rehoboam. You just got to ease up a little bit. And then he sought to the counsel of his father's men. These are men up in age that have been counseling for years. He said, I'm not listening to you guys. What you young guys got to say? They told him to be disrespectful. Remember, it says, my son, attain unto wise counsel. He told you to attain unto wise counsel. No, you didn't. Why? Because Rehoboam was a son with no understanding. So not only didn't listen, he just got disrespectful. Now, Jeroboam was no sucker. This was a full-grown man. You told a man, my little finger is going to be bigger than my father's penis. That's how I'm going to deal with you. What do you think you get from that? A soft answer turneth away wrath. He did not listen. Thus the kingdom was rent in two. All that goes back to what? Sin. Sin from the time of David, it propelled into generations later that bred a son like Jeroboam. Solomon's life, let's go back to real quick, and we're going to wrap it up. Go back to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, bear with me. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 18.
Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 18. Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me.
He says, and he knew that he's going to leave it for his son, and his son is going to mash it up. He said, I hate. So Solomon hated his life at the end. He's like, yo, all this was for nothing, because I'm leaving it to this guy, and this guy don't got no wisdom on how to deal with it, and we're going to lose everything. So with all that he had, he hated life. He understood the mistakes he made, that he didn't live joyfully with the wife of his youth. He didn't raise his son, but he tried to leave him advice and told him, at the end, fear God and keep his commandments, for that's the whole duty of man. All right, everybody, I pray that the class was edifying. You received something on the life of Solomon. Go back and read this history. It's always history is rich, and in it there are jewels on what we should learn and how to navigate. We have Bishop's class coming up at 6 o'clock. As always, Bishop says, spa, study, play, and apply these laws in your life. For those watching, visit us on IUIC TV. Class is 7 days a week, 3 times a day, and there's got to be 1,000 classes online. And subscribe and follow us on IUIC Austin on YouTube, all right? With that, we say shalom.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission, minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.